It's so beautiful and so huge. Hey, and for OKN, nice to meet you, Ann. It's so huge. A surprise to learn more about the body and about sexuality and how God planned what would be our sexuality for us. And the first thing to know is that when we talk about sexuality, we have to give a positive approach about it because that's what it's all about. It's about seeing the beauty of the creation. So when we talk about this subject, we're never supposed to enter in a list of rules of what we can or can't do, of what, like, this is a sin, this is not a sin, this is not the right approach because it doesn't correspond to the truth. The truth is even bigger than a list of do's and don'ts. The truth is really contemplating the beauty of the body and what God wants for us in our sexuality. So once I let that clear, and I already want you to feel, uh, um, I already want to feel to let your heart open to these wonders. And maybe if you before this had a negative view on sensuality or on sexuality, like being ashamed, uh being afraid of talking about it, like maybe you bring some doubts with yourself that you never had the opportunity to share it with anyone else, or maybe you feel dirty, maybe you don't like your own body, maybe, I don't know, there are so many things that can happen to people because they don't see this greatness of sexuality. And if you are this, if you live this is your opportunity to change and to see God, like in the beauty of God, and his purposes to our bodies, to our sexuality and our affections. So um and then we follow to God, like, so we can talk about sexuality, we have to talk about God because God is love, Deus caritas est. And because God is love, God creates. We have this, the first chapter. Okay, there's like a talk between New Testament and Old Testament. In the New Testament, we have this God is love. And then if you travel back to Genesis 1, the first action that we have of God is creation. So God is love, and God in the beginning creates. So we can make this conclusion that God is love and God creates. So love and creation, they walk together. Now, when God created us, he put in us like this spiritual DNA because we come from God and we'll go back to him, and we live in him now. So the spiritual DNA of God is inside us, which means if God is love, I have love. If God creates, I have the power to create. Not only the power, but I have the need of creation. I need to create things. And you just have to observe the world, like not talking about sexuality, but man needs to create. Man invents things every time. They invent the wheel, invent the phone, invent the light, invent the, I don't know, so many things that we can invent because we need to create things. But the important thing here, talking about sexuality, is that this spiritual DNA is expressed in ourselves through sexuality. Love and creation are expressed in us through sexuality. Being a man, Being a woman is an expression of this deep identity of God in me. So, as a man and as a woman, our bodies were made to express love and creation. If we understand this, we understand all the rest. We understand where our impulses, our desires come from. When we feel attracted, when I feel attracted to a woman, when a woman feels attracted to a man, this is not ugly. When a person gets aroused by the other, when a person gets interest in the other person, this is not ugly. This is beautiful, because that's our identity talking. That's our need for love and create talking. So you can look to your body, you can touch your body, like my head, my arms, my legs, my belly, my hair, my nose, my eyes, my penis, my butt. Uh, for girls, your vagina, your breast, your all parts of your body translates love and creation, and this is beautiful. And this impulses, all this sexual uh, energy in us is just an expression of the need we have to love and to create. Now, of course, you are with me and you agree that this is not so beautiful in reality, because we see the many propagandas made to live sexuality outside its natural and holy way. And I tell you why. I tell you that's because um, as DNA, as sexuality is this element in human nature that most expresses love and creation. It's the most beautiful dimension in us. It is also the most attacked. It is also the most uh, uh, attacked for not living all the dignity that we have in sexuality. We know that the devil cannot attack God. We know that he cannot destroy us, but he can attack us freely. And that's because he wants us to be apart from God. And because he knows he cannot do everything he wants, he will do whatever he can. And that's especially attacking our sexuality. And he attacks our sexuality in a way that this here, which is the dignity of sexuality, he tries to put it down, to push it down, and equal us to the animals, to the animal instinct. That's his purpose. His purpose is to push down the dignity of sexuality and equal us to just animal instincts. So this instinct that we feel, animals also feel it. This sexual uh, arousal, this sexual impulses, this behavior as man and woman, male and female, animals also have it, but they have it in the degree of animals. And we have it in the degree of women and men and children of God. It's not comparable. like if you want to diminish that, if you want to push it down in such a way that we are equal to animals, oh poor us, we are far from the dignity that God gave us. So, and that what the world does all the time. That's what the propaganda says. That's what the movies, the series, the books, the movements um, around the world, the products that are sold, the talks in television, they are trying to put men way below their vocation, way below. And if you disagree with them, they say that um, you are oppressing the and you have prejudice, and you are from this old Catholic Church that has this old teachings, and that we are so old-fashioned. And actually, this is the most beautiful truth about human identity. That is sexuality. So we now understand that we have this spiritual DNA. This is just a metaphor, but that represents that if God is love, I was born to love. God creates. I am. I have the need to create, and this need is very strong in me, and it expresses itself through sexuality. You know, so because of a man, because I'm a man, because you're a woman, uh, you express this identity. And then we talked about the attacks against sexuality made by the world, made by the devil, and yeah. So that would be the first part. Now, if anyone wants to share something just to enrich, and then we move on. What did you know about this? Have you ever heard something like this before? Um, what do you think about it? Please share.
It was good, William, because I heard about this before in the. I think it's been stressed out in the theology of the body, theology by our Saint John Paul II. It is very beautiful to hear and to know that we are the co-creator. The purpose of us in the world are to create as the Lord as the Lord created man and woman. We have the same purpose in this world to create other man and woman as an expression of love, because God is love, and we are creating other woman and man and other human because of that love. We have that special DNA. And I think that is very, very wide opening mind fact that I learned from the theology of the body. And that is very important to know, because that is the fundamental of knowing that that purpose will have us a courage to protect our sexuality toward others. Yeah.
Exactly. Perfect, Shem. Yes. Thank you. Anyone else?
Uh, can I ask, like, as you said that the sex is a gift from God, and I believe that our feeling is also a gift from God. The feeling of sometimes is it's like sometimes the feeling of naughtiness and all these things. I hope that's also a part of a normal person's, like a feeling for heterosexual feeling. But it's like we overcome that feelings when we have this type of feelings in our life. So it's like sometimes masturbations and all that things. But I believe that how early God had
I had some internet hiccups here, Daniel, but I, yeah.
yeah,
Would you type your question?
is clear? Oh
It's a
yes.
little.
Okay.
I
Okay.
understood
I'm going
parts
to
of the
type.
question, but I wanna be sure that I really got your entire question.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to type. Okay.
Okay. So while Daniel is typing, if anyone wants to give other comment on what we talked so far, please feel free.
Yeah, I'd like to share something about after hearing William's preaching. William, so I'm Teresa. So I'm very happy to have heard your preaching tonight, because when it comes to sexuality, especially when we need to preach this kind of things to young people nowadays. Because I actually teach at a Catholic school in Hong Kong. It's a Catholic school run by the Lasallian brothers, and actually I think none of the students are Catholics in the school, but of course, like other Catholic schools, we teach religious studies, or we teach Catholic education. So the most difficult topic to teach every year is to teach them about sexuality. Um, I mean, because nowadays they read a lot of propaganda from the internet, especially well, what sex is really about, like from movies, like from other medias. So somehow it's really hard to preach them in a Catholic way when it comes to sexuality. But after hearing your preaching tonight, most important thing I think is to not to demonize the concept of sexuality. Like
Yes.
we need to tell them, first of all, I'm not really an old school Catholic teacher like those 50 years ago. Like once you hear the topic of sex, then you just feel, it's struck by the thunderbolt or something. No, uh, because well, just to tell them what sex was initially meant to be about. It's a very precious gift from God to mankind, because and sex should be, I mean, part of a loving relationship between a male and a female, of course, like husband and wife. And so I have been inspired to how to present the topic of sexuality like in a more positive light.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your preaching tonight, really.
Yeah. Thank you for your comment, Teresa.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we talk about sex education, that's the whole point of talking about sexuality and evangelizing when the topic comes to that. Our goals as Catholics will never be to fight against directly what the world's preaching. Our mission, Jenny, I'm waiting for your question. Okay, thank you. So our goal as Catholics, our goal as people who are interested in evangelizing the world, given this beautiful and holy meaning of sexuality, is not fighting against the present discourse, but is to create something so beautiful and so worth of contemplating that the young people will feel attracted for the beauty, and they will see it's just ugly to live sexuality as an animal. This and this is the program. Sexuality education should be based, and evangelization should be based on the beauty, on the positiveness of things. And so everybody will look and see this beautiful thing, and then they will look to this ugly thing of living sexuality, and they will prefer the beauty because they will feel attracted. Um, that's the basic. We could go point by point, but basically it is beautiful, it is good, it is just. Danny asked, my question was, I believe that feeling is also a gift from God, like sexual and emotional feelings, but my question is how we deal with that. Okay, first thing, Danny, is that we must see these feelings as positive. The more we feel guilty, the more we feel ashamed, uh, the worst it will be. And I heard some words in your speech. I heard homosexuality, I heard masturbation, and then I can add pornography. I can add fool around with people, um, and that links to my next topic, which is utilitarianism. And I will answer your question with that. When we talk about utilitarianism, we talk about using someone to have an end, to have an end. So, for example, you guys are using me right now to have the ends of sexuality and affections formation. So you are using me. I can use, I don't know, the McDonald guy to give me a sandwich. I am using him to give me food. When it comes to sexuality, I will use a girl to give me pleasure, and that's it. I'm gonna use her. And she also can use me to obtain the same goal. So far, this is normal. Like, this is part of human relation. Everybody uses somebody else to obtain something in exchange. The question is this right? Is this wrong? John Paul II answers this question. It depends. First thing, it depends on the free will of the other person. Like, you are using me to obtain information about sexuality and affections. The first thing we must observe is, am I here on my free will? Or did Barbara put a gun in my head and, and said, William, you don't have a choice, otherwise I will throw a bomb at your house. So what happened? Barbara invited me, and I came here on my free will. So same thing happens in a relationship, talking about sexuality. I use a girl to give me pleasure, but did she do there on her free will, or is it rape, or is it sexual abuse, or any other kind of sexual offense? Is she here because of her free will? That's the second thing. Now, the third thing is, let's say that she is here on her free will, because it's usually what happens in the world. People just go fooling around and everybody accepts this kind of relationship. They don't search for commitment and anything else. But then we have the following thought. If I use something only to obtain the goal of pleasure, I'm using the person as an object. Even if the person is there on her free will, she is my object. And she agreed with that. She agreed with that condition because she also wants me an object for her pleasure. So this is actually a relationship of two objects. It's not a relationship of two people. It's not a relation of two people. I know that we cannot like open people's heads and put what we think inside their heads to follow God. So we cannot do anything about it. The only thing we can do is to educate them, is to evangelize them, and especially to experience that in our lives. Nobody around me is an object. They can serve me to a purpose, but what guarantees that I am living this holy, in a holy way, is love. The only medicine to avoid the use of the other as an object is love, is wanting the best for the other, is wanting the salvation of the soul for the other. That is true love. And if we talk about true love, and if we talk about true love, we are safe. We have the medicine for utilitarianism. So, yeah, I was going to answer directly to Danny now, but I think he lost connection. Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, but so this is the other aspect, very important. Utilitarianism, in a certain way, it's normal to use other, but it has to be a relation of two persons and not two objects. With that, we understand why fooling around is an empty action, is an empty behavior that equals people in as objects and equals people to only the instinct, the animal instinct. And we are so much more than that. We are created to commit ourselves. We are created because you know what, a relationship, no, how can I say that in English? I don't know. Barbara, how can I say namoro?
Being in love, né?
No, not being in love. Like the
I don't know.
relationship,
I don't know.
the relationship of namoro. Can I say a romantic
Or
relationship? Like
courtship?
when I say like boyfriend and girlfriend, what's this relationship called?
Uh,
Uh, I'm gonna call romantic relationship. Okay, I'm gonna call romantic relationship. Um, so romantic relationships were made to end. What wasn't made to end was marriage. Marriage will never end. But a romantic relationship before marriage will end. It's just a passage. Or a romantic relationship ends because it didn't work out and the two broke up, or it ends because it flowed to marriage. These are the two options for a romantic relationship. It was made to end. And if we know that, we enter in a relationship desiring marriage and open to a possible breakup. but it is temporary. It is temporary. And what happens today? Dating. Yes. Thank you. So simple. Dating. Thank you, Carmela. So a dating relationship was made to end. Now, the excuse for fooling around, for kissing indistinctly everybody else, is that people don't want commitment. People are afraid of commitments. If we treat each other as objects, if we treat each other only driven by our animal instincts, we are not obliged to commit our lives to the other person. But if we do that, if we have the conscience that we are children of God, that we don't live under utilitarianism rules, we live but guided by love. So now we're safe, because now we want to commit ourselves. And if we date, we are dating knowing that this relationship will end in marriage, or if God wants, God has his mysteries, the breakup of the relationship. Yeah, love affair, as long as it extends in time, right? It's not just once in a lifetime. There is a commitment between the two, a minimal commitment. That's it. And so, well, you can tell Danny later. He asked, the feeling is a gift from God, and he wants to know how to deal with it. Then the first thing is to answer the question. It's okay to have feelings. It's okay to feel attracted. It's okay to be aroused. It's okay to, this is all okay. This is all fine. Like when you feel attracted, when you feel aroused, when you feel driven sexually towards something, the first thing you do, my man, the first thing you do is to thank God. You say, thank you, Lord, because I'm not an angel. Thank you, God, because I'm not dead. I am alive. Like if I didn't feel anything, I would be dead. And I am not dead. And that's why I feel. That's why there is this driven force inside me. And first thing towards this way is to be thankful. Because if you're not thankful, if we think that it's always the enemy trying to attack me and destroy my soul, oh my God, it will turn into a pressure pan. Like someday it will explode. Someday it will explode because you're not living it healthily. Now, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. What about people who cannot manage these feelings? Okay, it's a good thing. Okay, there's this sexual force in me, and I thank God because I have it, because I'm not an angel, because I'm not dead. But these things are so strong that I created a habit that I cannot stop kissing around, that I cannot stop masturbating. I cannot stop seeing pornography. I cannot stop being in groups where the subject of the group is always sex, always porn images. I cannot stop making conversations about what one did to a girl. If that's the case, so we have a case of lust. We have a case of lust, and lust is dangerous. Lust is really a sin. And if you are in this situation, if you know anyone in this situation, the first thing to do is pray. is to recognize the beauty of sexuality, and right after, tell God that you can't manage this gift and you are using it for bad things. So you pray, you pray, you pray. Second, you search for a spiritual companion. You tell him your history on this subject, and you open his heart, your heart for him. Just as so many characters in the gospel did, like the guy with a crippled hand. Uh, he goes on Saturday, and Jesus is preaching, and there is this guy who leaves his place and goes, and it's ugly. It's a social prejudice that he suffers, and he doesn't care. He just go and he do this towards Jesus. And in the act of showing his weakness, showing what is ugly in him, he is healed. Beautifully, he's healed. So the second thing is, look for this spiritual companion. Open your heart to him, and find in him the help you need, which is, first of all, a brother or sister to pray for you at the moment and in other moments. So intercession is very important. And then you two together will plan a way to escape from sin. It can be easy and it can be really hard, depending on the degree of the habit. The other thing that we worried very much is about sin. Is it a sin? Oh, is this a sin? Like, is the person going to hell? What will happen if a person knows all this that you're talking about, and even so chooses not to live like this? So I'm gonna put here in the chat, I'm gonna do a simultaneous translation. I hope that works. It has to be, for something to be a sin, it has to be it would be a poor translation. I'm sorry. This is very doctrine. Serious matter or grave matter. I don't know. Maybe I'm creating
Yeah,
new words
grave
in English.
matter. No,
Grave
grave matter,
matter.
sorry.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. It so help me, Karish. Grave matter, full conscious, I think something's wrong, full conscious and free will. Observe that very attentively. Never forget about this. Never, never, never. If you want to know if something is a sin, you have to go over these three things. If what you did is not grave, this is not a mortal sin. Yes, thank you. If what you did is not a grave thing, so it's not a sin. If you don't know that it's a sin, how can you commit a sin? It's simple. Like, if a person doesn't know the doctrine, if a person was always educated, was always raised in the family learning that masturbation is okay, fooling around is okay, like the culture taught the person that. Even the father or the mother, I don't know who, taught their children to live like this. So the person doesn't know that is a sin. They don't have this full consciousness of what they're doing. Grave matter is when we go against one of the 10 commandments. So the 10 commandments englobes all what is considered grave matter. For example, the sixth commandment is to not sin against chastity, honor father and mother, and so on. So, not to honor father and mother, sin against chastity, among others, is a grave matter. Now, am I fully conscious of that? Do I know that is a sin? And I tell you, the world doesn't know. They don't have full consciousness. But truth be told, that is even more sad. Because only man, only children of God have full consciousness. So if they don't have it, it's even sadder. So that's the urge for evangelizing. Okay, so the first part of full consciousness is this: do I know that is a sin? And second thing is, was I aware of that when I committed sin? Which leads us to the third, free will. Was I obliged to do that? There are so many people who feel guilty because they were sexually harassed. They feel that they committed a sin, and they have this guilt weighing on their shoulders. And the person was a victim. They did not commit any sin because of their free will. But there is an even more serious thing, is that people who are sexually harassed for a longer time, and they feel guilty because they felt pleasure. They were being harassed, abused, but that happened for a long time, repetitively. So the person feels very confused. I'm a victim, but I'm not a victim because I felt pleasure with that. And then we have to pray for God to heal the person, because it's very confusing to mess things up. Like, we have feelings, like there are nerves here. So we feel pleasure. Like, I can make this and I can feel good. And it not necessarily means that I wanted that. Other thing about free will is addiction. Like, if one is addicted to a certain habit, to a certain pattern, his will is compromised. So when you talk to a priest, when you talk to a person, to hear a father, to hear your confession, you have to talk about this. What was your degree of free will? And so the priest will analyze how grave the matter was and how grave you sin. So if you take any of these adjectives, if you take grave, if you take full, if you take free, it's not a mortal sin anymore. It can be what's the other sin? Kirishe, help me.
Venial.
Venial, thank you. It's a venial sin, or it's not even a sin. Because if you are ignorant about that, it's just not a sin, which is even sadder. We talked about it. It's even sadder. So yeah, the world is in a bad place right now. And our mission is to, first of all, experience this body, this sexuality, as something holy, and then evangelize them, and then teach them this beautiful way of sexuality. And many times we from the church, we carry this weight on our shoulders of bad habits, of sexuality instability. We are unstable in affections, in sexuality, and we have to be fully conscious of what is the graveness of what we're doing, and then we need to ask for help. We need to ask for help, and then to work to work on a plan that makes you end this habit, this sin, this addiction. All right, I want to go to the last part, but then I want to ask if anyone wants to share anything. No, it's okay.
I thought this was so important because I was kind of like you described, like I always felt like a victim, but then I also felt like things were my fault. And if I talked to a priest or someone from the church, sometimes they would say it was my fault. Or youth ministry, they would say like you're the girl, so it's your fault. So it was really messed up for me. But uh, I I noticed that kind of like how you described, I never felt comfortable around those people who always talked about things they did, or they were looking at pictures or something, or they they had those bad habits, as you said, like the sin of lust. I never felt comfortable around them, but I can realize now, oh, that's because I really always was a child of God, and I thought, oh no, I'm bad, and I thought always I did something wrong
Yeah.
in kind of these situations that happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is very polemic because the tendency is really to put the fault on the victim, and this is so dangerous. This is so delicate to just uh, give affirmations like what makes bad things happen is the sin within us. That's what makes bad things happen. It's the sin. It's the lack of management of of the forces inside us. And it doesn't matter if you are the clothes you're wearing, because if the other person thinks bad, the other person is moved by these sexual forces. It doesn't matter how you're dressed. He will, I don't know, there's so many things. He will abuse you, he will, right? On the other hand, knowing that you cannot put fault on the victim, when we talk about a Christian mindset, when we talk about sexuality in the way we just did, we are called to rethink the way we behave, the way we behave, the way we talk, the way we dress, the conversations we have. We are called to rethink everything because we are called to think, um, if sexuality is this beautiful, if sexuality is this good, how am I honoring my manhood? How am I honoring my womanhood? How am I honoring my sexuality, my identity? Am I being the man according to God's heart? Am I being the woman according to God's heart? So this is really the point. Like, we have to be each time more men and women according to God's heart. And then we need references, of course. As a man, I need a reference of how to be a better man, of how to be a more holy man. The same way for women. And so we can have these, I don't know if you saw this last week or 2 weeks ago, there is this dog who attacked a little baby, a girl, and her brother, which was a child, defended her. Like, the little child jumped towards the dog to defend his little sister. And there is a picture of them. And the face of the boy is all attacked, is all damaged. But he had this courage to defend his little girl. I thought that's so beautiful. And that is a reference of how to be a better man and how to be a better woman. Because I'm sure that if the little brother was being attacked and the little sister was there, was bigger, I think she would have also defended him. Like, so that is a reference for me of how to be a man. And then we need more references. Jesus is a good reference. People we see in the prayer group, especially in the church, we can find good references. The saints, if you look to the saints, like, you can use them as your hall of voices. There is a hall of voices in our head, and these voices belongs to people whom we admire. There are these voices, and I can ask, would Saint Francis behave this way? What would Padre Pio do in this situation? What would Jesus say in this situation? How would Shem behave in this situation? Because Shem is such a holy guy. He's such a committed guy to the church. And then I think of, oh, how would Shem feel? And so I live and I find these references in my daily life. And I'm surrounded by these good references. And then I am in a much safer way now. So yeah, I end this session asking you guys to rethink about how you are being a man, how you're being a woman, to think how you can improve your sexuality. I end here asking you to pray seriously and ask God the grace to have a full understanding of what sexuality is. As Teresa said, like, it's not about being an old-time teacher that sees sexuality as this heavy thing and sinful thing. But my intention here is for you to see this positive, beautiful, and holy thing. And after that, help people, not by attacking what they live, but by presenting something beautifully huge and holy. So they want to live the same thing as you live. Okay, thank you for having me. Thank you,